Jamie Shea is the former NATO Deputy Assistant Secretary-General for Emerging Security Challenges. Jamie, welcome back. Good to see you. Well, first of all, I guess, realistically, what are you expecting to come out of this NATO summit?
Good afternoon, Jamie, and thank you for having me back on the show. Well, I think, first of all, you'll see a tightening up of NATO's collective defence arrangements. You mentioned Sweden joining the alliance. That will improve NATO's posture in the Baltic area and northern Europe. You've got this commitment that the allies have now agreed to raise defence spending, to make the 2% of GDP rule the minimum rather than the maximum, and on more or less an open-ended permanent basis. You've got some new regional defence plans which will make it much clearer what each individual ally needs to do in order to play its full part in the collective defence of NATO Europe. You've also got, by the way, nobody's really talked about this very much, but for NATO it's significant, a meeting with 4 Asia-Pacific countries tomorrow. The leaders of Japan, South Korea, New Zealand and Australia are going to be in Vilnius as well. Now, obviously, the whole debate does reverberate around Ukraine, and I expect that NATO tomorrow will give Ukraine a fairly significant package to upgrade the relationship, weapons, long-term interoperability programs. Certain allies will give these bilateral security assurances for the long run to build up the Ukrainian army that President Zelensky is seeking, an accelerated process of integration by ditching NATO's membership action plan, which could have slowed the whole thing down, and this new NATO-Ukraine Council, which will meet for the first time with Zelensky. I'm not saying Zelensky himself is going to be perfectly satisfied, but nonetheless, this is really going to move the NATO-Ukraine cursor significantly forward.
Turkey has agreed to back Sweden as a NATO member. I wonder what force does this add to the alliance?
Well, it certainly, as your correspondents rightly said at the beginning, allowed NATO to put on a good show of unity. If Sweden, for the second summit in a row, Jamie, had not been able to sort of join the alliance, it would have been, I think, a bit of a PR setback for NATO. This whole issue has been rumbling on for some time, and Sweden's neighbour Finland has been in NATO for several months already. So I think the fact that Erdogan has now done, if you like, the magnanimous thing helps NATO considerably. Do not forget that Hungary also has to ratify Sweden's membership as well, but that shouldn't prove to be too difficult. It also allows NATO commanders now to go ahead and finalise their military plans for the defence of Northern Europe. And of course, it does put the focal point, now that Sweden is joining NATO, on the country that still wants to get in, and that's Ukraine.
Turkey, of course, seeking to try and upgrade its F-16 flight. What challenges, what issues does that cause?
Well, I think the Biden administration would like to go ahead because initially the idea was that the US would sell Turkey F-35 Joint Strike Fighter aircraft. That became impossible after Turkey concluded many defense agreements with Russia, for example, to purchase the Russian S-300 air defense system. So Turkey has fallen back on 40 modern F-16 aircraft. The Biden administration would like to go ahead as a show of goodwill to Turkey. These planes, of course, will also reinforce NATO's southern flank. But the issue is really with the Congress, both Democrats and Republicans in Congress, who are worried about the impact on Greece, another important ally, and who feel that Turkey should really distance itself more from Russia and cancel some of its agreements to buy Russian military equipment before they're willing to sell the F-16. So I think the real question now is whether the Biden administration can convince Congress that Turkey has done enough to merit being allowed to have these 40 F-16s. So watch this space.
We will. Jamie, thanks for that. Good to see you. Jamie Shea, former NATO Deputy Assistant Secretary-General for Emerging Security Challenges.